Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you're watching this video, I will try to make this short because I can tend to ramble a bit. So I'll try to make this concise. I really wanted to do this video for a while. Wanted to make sure that I was in a good place overall before I did. This perspective is more so above all else, above anything else. It's about you as a woman, or as I put it together, it's about me as a woman. And as the title shows, um, what do you need to know if you decide to date or engage romantically with a man from West Africa? Based off of my experiences and my perspective and point of view, I wanted to share it. Now, I also want to share that I am a realist. I base my point of view and how I approach the world and everything that I do from a perspective of being real. And I let my map of reality um and how I see the world, my perspective, my map of perception, I want it to always be grounded in the reality of a thing, not what I want to idealize it, not what I want it to be or dream it to be. I want it to be the reality of a thing. That is the best way to approach, I think, dealing with all things foreign. It's a good approach to life, obviously, and it, it's it's about your protection, at the end of the day. So, um, that brings me to the topic. What do you need to know? Number one, is transactional. Now, I know that that sounds harsh and it's a reality, but it's better for you to know that and be aware and move in a way that benefits and protects you rather than being idealized about what it is. Relationships with you being a Western woman, the reality is your relationships with West African men, from my experience thus far, will be transactional. That means it'll be about what I can get in exchange for the benefit of you saying that I'm your man or your husband. It's always about how there will be a benefit to such an arrangement because you are from a different country. You are not any of those things that they value. Judgment calls out of it. The reality is that's the truth. So, if it's going to be transactional, a lot of women would be automatically turned off. I get it. That's totally understandable. But if you're still standing, you're still in the room, a relationship being transactional, is harsh. There are a lot of men that would say women do it all the time. That's how dating really is set up. If a woman dates with the consideration if a man's going to be a good provider, that's transactional. A good protector, that's transactional. And I would agree. You usually see that for the women, but what about for men? It looks foreign. It feels foreign. It feels uncomfortable, and it does. That's why you have to go into it with this level of awareness, I believe, so that you can look out for what serves you best, to not be in a situation that devalues you, or doesn't protect you ultimately, because you weren't willing to go in with both eyes open and realize that it was transactional. So you create a situation and scenario that works for you, and he will see if there is a situation that works transactionally good for him. And that's just the reality. So the sooner you realize that with open eyes, the better. It's about your protection, ladies. Number two, speaking of which, watch out for your safety. I can't iterate that enough. I think oftentimes we as women tend to um, kind of live, well, at least I do. I tend to live life kind of carefree And I don't really think much about it like I should, and like I kind of am at this point in my life moving forward, especially with my desires to live and move abroad. Your safety is paramount. Um, and I want to say this too from what I've experienced and something to consider, um, especially if you're going to date West African men. The stronger your boundaries are, the stronger your self identity is, the more that can be triggering and offensive, culturally, even. But it can be off putting to a man with plans. But hopefully, point number one would have addressed things enough to where when you're here, you're at least in a safe space because you're having honest conversations. But again, this is real strong energy. It's not something that is necessarily a good fit for many men, I'm sure. But it's about your safety and your boundaries and making sure that you're looking out for you. Um, but yeah, you do risk offending. That's that. Point number 4. Your perspective and patience is key in this process. Um, let's just be clear. You are not escaping dustiness in America by saying you're going to go off abroad and date West African men. Sure, you might have their undivided attention a bit more than you would, anywhere else or here, in the West. But that's not the point. The point is your patience is still key because you still have to do something even more than you would do here, and that's called vetting. Vetting is everything. You're not escaping the broken moral compass that exists as an epidemic amongst black men in America. It exists everywhere. It is a challenge that is universal. So you're not escaping that. Being naive and wearing rose-colored glasses about saying, "Oh, these men are, fully engaged and into me beyond anything I've ever experienced before." That may be true, but the patience is even more needed because things are different. And the more you're aware of that, the better. That let me expand on that a little bit more. Watch my notes. You have to watch and wait to see what his character will show. And you oftentimes will not know that within the first 3 weeks, 3 months, or maybe even 6 months. You're just not going to know a man's character. You continue to sit and watch. You have to watch and wait. You have to let it manifest and unfold what his true intentions and heart towards you truly is. This whole going to a foreign country because you want to expand your life experiences, if you are so blessed to be able to do so, with the hidden dangled carrot in the back, like, "Ooh, you might get married." Never had any luck with that so far. You finally might. Listen, going to Africa ultimately should be a journey of your self-discovery and your growth. It is not a get a husband quick scheme. If you look at it like that, they are coming for you. So you can't look at it like that. Even if that carrot is there in the background, it doesn't matter. All those other points that I made above should shelter, anchor, and protect you. And it's important. And then it's kind of universal too, because I've heard this on some other channels of women, a couple of channels I listen and watch about, women that want to go abroad and bop around and, nomads and that kind of thing. Anytime you decide to do something that is different and outside the norm, you're going to have people giving you judgment, projection, and their perception of how it looks to them and how it looks for your life. The problem is only you can determine that. So you have to get past the projections and perceptions that others have about your decisions and how you want to move and doing what's best for you. Um, it's really key. It's important to keep high spirits also when you are in West Africa amongst dating and men. If you are not in high spirits, meaning that you're feeling good, feeling great, on top of yourself and your feelings and your emotions and your thoughts, um, that's going to read, and that reads as prey. So it's for your own protection. Make sure you're in high spirits. Make sure you're feeling good about yourself. Make sure you're feeling, in an empowered, strong place, so that you're able to hold up all those other points that I've made. And it heightens your protection. It really does. Men can sense that. Okay. My 6 points and then my 7th point. Okay. Even when the time comes that you should find a great guy, and I'm sure you will, it is still vastly important for you, if you are a spiritual person, if you are a spiritualist, it's important for you to get a reading done, to see what the ancestors and spirit has to say about this arrangement in this man. And when you get that information, you have to move accordingly. This is not an area where you can play with your life. So if you ask for insight and a heads up on something, honor it. Because if you play with it, you won't like the results. And here's how this works. When you get a reading done, all of those other points that I've listed, you have red flag after red flag that you purposely tuck away in your purse because you're hopeful for this new beginning and experience you're having. You get that reading and it confirms your red flags. That is how you know. And if you choose to ignore, you do so at your own risk. There's a ride at Six Flags that I absolutely loved when I was a little girl. It's called, I still love it. It still runs. Monster Plantation at Six Flags over Georgia and Atlanta. And when it's a boat ride, and when you get to the part where the boat is about to go down the little thing, doo, 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 and there the little alligator, he's like the sheriff, and he's like, the marsh, don't go into the marsh, don't go into the marsh. And you still on your little boat still go down into that marsh. Understand you are going to encounter dragons and all other kinds of things, because you were warned to not go into the marsh. And if you do, you do so at your own peril. But at least Spirit has his eye on you. So it's something that I would say to not take for granted. And hey, if you're not spiritual, the same thing applies. Go to your pastor. Go for counseling. Go for prayer. The same things will pop out, I assure you. Because this thing is serious and it's universal. So that's my point there. Point number 7 and my last point. Hope 15 minutes, not so bad. 7th point. You have to keep in mind, if you're going to be dating West African men as a Western woman, and that is how they see you as a Black Western woman. Ultimately, there are cultural differences that, when taken to the extreme, have a very big impact on the dynamics between you as a woman and him as a man. You can't underestimate the impact of that. It's about learning and adjusting, and hopefully, if it's the right guy, all these kind of things just kind of work their way out. If you remain a feminine woman and ultimately you want to remain in feminine energy, you should ultimately have no problems. It's just watching out for your protection piece. But once men are so aware that that's how things are with you, hopefully things will smooth out. We'll see. But ultimately, it matters. The culture in the actual present day state of things going on in so many of the countries in West Africa. It's telling. You cannot pretend like you don't know the current events. I'm always concerned and turned off by people who are not willing to engage in the current event of a place that you're interested in visiting, or people you're interested in getting to know. Well, what is the current situation going on there? I always value that, and I'm suspicious of people who don't put any weight on that. But ultimately, the economic reality of West Africa and many of the countries is dire. It is. So that you can't just turn a blind eye and pretend that it isn't real. Pretend like it isn't real. It is. Pretend it's not real at your peril. You know, I've walked amongst it. It's real. So that brings me to one piece of wisdom that I did get from someone I don't particularly like, but that's another story. Um, Even a broken clock is right twice, you know. So anyway, he gave this unique parable called I'm not saying the word right. When I shared this before, my girls laughed at me. Uh, a horse that is almost dead, that's dehydrated from third, no water, and he's hungry, he's almost about to die and pass out. Oh, think of a horse in that desperate state. Okay. Um, and you get this horse, someone gives this horse to you, and you give it water and food, and you tend to its wounds. And over time, in a few months, that horse is better. And then by the end of the year, the horse is strong again and it's running around, it's strong. And the horse is back in good health. Do you know what happens with that horse? That horse bucks on you. That horse runs away. And that's the reality of how nature is. Your job is to determine how much a man's mentality and perception is rooted in that state of primal survival or an evolved state of seeing you for you. You know, that's a really big question. Only time and observation can tell you that. So you have to be patient. You know, that's your work as a woman. So you see, it doesn't relieve the work per se, that you have to be diligent um, in protecting yourself, especially if you're going to try such a feat as dating West African men. Which brings me to my last point that's not even written down. My honest opinion and perspective is it's best, if you're really serious about it, to move over there if you really want to date a man in West Africa. Because you can't take anything seriously on the internet. Nothing. It is all trash. It is completely a hands-on contact sport with those men that are from there. That is something that you need to go to West Africa to actually engage in a real relationship and to develop it from there. You know, something could be said for the West African men that are already here. You know, a ton of them live in Atlanta. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Quite honestly, if I wanted to date an American man, I would continue to do so because at this point it's the same thing. So I look forward to still having the experience of dating men that are indigenously, well, not indigenously, but men that still live and reside in the country and is still a part of their life and their lifestyle. That appeals to me. Not so much a man from these countries that has chosen to completely become, you know, a westernized version of any other black guy or gal you see in America. I mean, yeah, not for me. Everyone's different. That's just my preference. But anyway, I am getting away from this topic. So ultimately, that's all I wanted to share. Very important stuff. 7 things that you need to know if you decide to date a West African man, or to engage with them romantically. So, yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and you have a great day.